Hello, this is a report on the blue night wave spell, and we're in for some really strong energy as we go through the coming week. Today it is Sunday, the 20th of June 2021, and today we are on the 6th day, yellow star, just before the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, which is tomorrow. And as you can see, that's a portal day. So there's a lot to fit into this report today, and a lot of astrology, a lot of information. Today is a really important day because it is the 29th degree of Gemini. So whatever story we've been running over our entire lifetime, over our unconscious dream, it's really critical. It's the critical degree, it's the anaretic degree, to focus on that. And there's some people that I know who may be watching this video. This is a very critical degree for you today in terms of the sun. And so 29 degrees is a time when we can make a huge shift. The more that you know about your codes, about your star code, about your cosmology, and where this energy is in your chart, this is, again, a whole different dimension that you can go into about knowing about yourself. So today, focus on what's coming in for you. At the moment, the moon is at 29 degrees of Libra, waxing. I'm in the Libra parts of the zodiac in Glastonbury, so I can feel this energy as well. So lots of things coming in for me around mindsets, around how I've been thinking over my life, what I want to keep and expand upon, and what I want to change. We've still got Mercury in retrograde at the moment in Gemini. So that's going to change on the 22nd. And so again, focusing today on being the star that we really are, rather than the old mindsets and the old storyline where we're not valuing ourselves, where we're not loving ourselves, where we're still doing things that don't feel good, that aren't in alignment with truth. This is the time to really focus today, ready for that big shift in energy tomorrow. According to some dowsers that I'm familiar with, they've talked about visiting sacred sites actually the day before these events. So often people go to sacred sites in the UK, for example, like Avebury, like Stonehenge, on the actual day. And according to people who douse the energy is at its strongest the day before. So a good day to go to these sacred sites. If you can't go, do a meditation and tune in to your favourite sacred site, or just ask to be shown what your connection is. Lots to choose for there around this time. And our ancestral patterns as well. So if you're a European, focus on European sites, for example. If you live in the Americas, focus on the amazing energies there. Just let yourself be guided into where you need to go to be even more of a conscious dreamer. So today we are on day 6, and I'm just going to quickly run through what these energies are in terms of how this works in this particular wave spell. So I'm going to bring up a document to show you, which is something that I use every 13 days now with people that I'm working with and myself, of course, in order to connect to our particular code and how to work with it in terms of co-creation, which again is Gemini energy, how to co-create with the universe consciously so that we become a pillar of light more and more, and that we are manifesting from that clear light space. So I'm just going to bring the document up. Okay, so this is the ebook For Blue Magnetic Night. And so it began on Tuesday, the 15th of June. And back then, what you're doing on planet Earth is really key. So here we go with Blue Night. Blue Night is the third Mayan sign. So there's 20 Mayan signs and it's number 3. So it's the co-creative code. Number 1 is the initiation, red dragon, what the Great Mother is bringing us so we can let go of our survival issues. Number 2 is white wind. So it's the new learning coming in that we are a spirit in a human being body and we're here to evolve the human being story now with the emotional evolution. So coming into Cancer energy, this is the key because Cancer is about the home, it's about the mother, it's about family, for example, it's about how we feel. Cancerian people or people with a lot of Cancer in their charts, Moon in Cancer, for example, which is connected to the moon. They are often very sensitive beings who have developed strong coping mechanisms, a hard shell, to hide or protect their vulnerability. And over the years on the planet, of course, this is perfectly understandable. If we want to go through the emotional evolution, though, we have to come out of surviving into thriving. And so learning how to work with our emotional body is key because our emotional body is the projector of the old story onto this giant mystery school that we're in. And so to become a conscious dreamer, we have to really go into what is unconscious. And how do we know that? We follow the cookie trail of our feelings. So the triggers that we experience every day, they reveal our old story that we're here to evolve. So on a very simple level, forget mindfulness as a priority, go into feelingness, because our amygdala has been wired a lot of the time to not feel. We've overridden our feelings, we've overridden our gut instincts, and our behavior is being dictated by all this unresolved emotional stuff. So people have created lots of coping mechanisms around making money, for example, where they're not really living the life that they want to live. They're living a life of protection, of trying to avoid key emotional issues by simply having lots of money so that they feel as though they've got power over certain situations. The truth is, however, they haven't got power over their own emotions. And so they're living a very disempowered life. And that's making it really tough right now for everyone on the planet because these are the games that we're playing, power games around control. So remember, the only control we have is over how we react, how we respond. So the more you become aware of how to heal your emotional trauma and how to be emotionally centered and how to let go of old mindsets that are no longer serving you around feeling that other people have power over you, that you're powerless, that you have to focus on everything going on around you instead of focusing on yourself, which is a complete misdirection of power, then your life will change massively. And this is what this is really about now. Starting to make choices from being emotionally centered, feeling safe, feeling good self-esteem, feeling, you know, what your stuff is. You can trust yourself. Often we've made a lot of choices in the past because of our ancestral patterns and stories where we've gone down really dark routes into really traumatic, emotionally tough places and things that we've had to deal with. And now we are retracing our steps out of the woods, and we're coming into an awareness that we had to go there to know that, to experience that, so that we're working towards this age of Aquarius, which is coming in and is due to be in approximately 30 years' time, fully, according to some astrologers. And so we're beginning this process now, being solution focused, getting emotionally free. So, Blue Night, the planet is Saturn, and where Saturn is in your chart is, of course, a very key understanding for you, your Saturnian patterns that occur approximately every 30 years. So, looking at what those patterns are, knowing those patterns, healing those patterns, coming into a different space, this is really important at this time. And this will be highlighted this week astrologically. So, I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So, we started this journey with Blue Night back on Tuesday, the 15th of June. So, knowing your Saturnian patterns is important, very important for you to be the star that you really are. That is essential. Okay. On the planets, we've got Saturn in Aquarius, so we've got the structure of Aquarius coming in at this time now. Solution focused, being emotionally free, that's one aspect of it, and fair for everybody. So, creating a world that is based on being free of all these old emotional shadow stories. The next Mayan sign is Yellow Seed, and that was on Wednesday, the 16th of June, and that was a portal day. So this goes back to this one where we had the 10 portals. So again, go back to your diary and see what was happening for you the 7th to the 19th of May. What were you learning then about your coping mechanisms, for example, where you were maybe in a place of fear, where you couldn't fully be yourself, where you're not being your full starseed self, sharing your gifts. And again, going into the detail around why you feel personally that you can't do that. Because remember, this is all about you. It's your perception. It's your coming to terms with how you live your life. And so that's a reality check. And how do you want to live your life? Because it is down to you. You're the conscious dreamer. If you're willing to make the changes and do the work on the inside, then the outside has to change. Remember, that's how this game of life works. We're becoming very aware of how we create consciously. So the next day is Red Serpent. That's the 5th Mayan sign. Sorry, I should have said the 4th Mayan sign is Yellow Seed, and the planet is Jupiter. So it's our mastery of the first 3 steps. Okay, so mastery of the seed that we are. So we're like every other sentient living being on this planet. We connect to the cycles. We're made naturally from nature. And the more that we can align with natural things that aren't interfered with, that aren't GM, that aren't manufactured in a chemistry lab, the more we come into healing. There's lots of amazing things in plants and seeds that can heal us as well. And our ancestors knew that. Going back to those times creates personal freedom. It's not patented, it's not owned by anybody. This is our divine right as sentient beings on planet Earth. And anybody who's trying to control that and take away that divine right is something to be feared on one level. This is a very old program that's running, people who are trying to control other people and stop them connecting to their source. So their source divinity, their source intelligence around knowing what is good for us. This has been overwritten for a very long time, thousands of years, where we often don't know what we need to eat at the right time, what's good for us. We've been so fed bullshit and lies to sell products. If you haven't watched it yet, What the Health is an amazing film which I've watched this week, and again, it's given me a very different perspective on certain things. So the focus really being on health and what we put into our bodies and mastery of that. And just checking my notes here, so I've written this down. So again, if you look at everything that's happening now as it's taking us towards being solution focused and emotionally free. So with that presupposition, that means we've got to go through a lot of storylines, a lot of experiential training on planet Earth that's showing us the opposite of that. It's showing us what situations create fear for us, how we have created belief systems around that, how we have historically used different things as well in order to boost our energy, for example, really important. There's a belief that diabetes is caused primarily by sugar. Check that film out if you haven't already. That may give you a very different perspective. What I do want to say about the sugar is it's a coping mechanism. So when we ingest it, we get a sugar rush, as any parent will know with a young child. And of course, because it's out in the mainstream, because you may parent your child around not having unhealthy choices, once they come into contact with other children at parties, etc., which I know, at the moment has been very compromised. If another child is having sugar product, for example, then it's very challenging often for parents to say, no, you can't have that. No, you can't be like the herd. No, you can't be like the majority, because it's not good for you. Because remember, a lot of these behaviors, these addictions, they're coming from an emotional drive. They're very powerful because, like most drugs, we get a mood shift. And if we're running a lot of programs around old ancestral story, then part of us may feel down a lot of the time, may feel depressed. You may feel angry at the moment about what's going on. You may feel depressed. So there's a natural tendency wired in to go and seek a quick fix around having a cake, having some alcohol, stronger drugs, for example, pain relief, for example. And you can become very aware of this. This is something I've been doing a lot of training on at the moment on myself, for example, around why I am attracted to certain things that reconnect me to a memory from the past. So, for example, maybe you had a good time as a child drinking Coca-Cola and eating sweets after being in school, for example, which may have been quite a challenging control space for many, many hours, maybe doing things that you didn't want to do, that you didn't want to listen to, that people you didn't want to be around. So that was your reward when you came out of school. And that created a pattern, that wired something in, because the amygdala stores all the feel-good factors as well as the fear factors. They're all wired into the same place. So once you become really aware of this, then you can start to rewire this using emotional freedom technique, for example. So if you think back to, this goes back hundreds of years in the UK. And again, I've watched fascinating documentaries on sugar. and the slave trade, for example, and how it came into the UK and what that created in our society. And so, even though we may say it doesn't create diabetes per se, because there's other factors there that do, what it does do is it rots our teeth, for example. And I'm going to put a link to a chart for you under this video, which shows that the teeth are all about choices. They're in the central meridian. And so, right here, again, going back to the Gemini and the Mercury in Gemini at the moment, that's retrograde, we're going back over old ground around our choices. Each tooth is connected to a particular organ. And so, if you've got something going on with a tooth, you can find out very, very specific information as to what that links to on a biology, physiology level. Then you can do tapping to actually uncover what's going deeper. So if you think about roots, for example, you think about, what your teeth do for you and how they allow you to ingest food, to chew it down. And so again, often when we've got teeth issues, gum issues, this is about choices that we've made that don't sit well with us now, how to move forward from that, how to create new choices. But sugar generally destroys teeth. Anything with lots of sugary, different types of sugar, let's say in food, because there's a whole range of them, they create different effects. And so it's becoming an expert. And yes, we do need to become an expert. We need to become very much about doing our due diligence around products. I know it's time consuming, and part of us may feel it's unfair because people who are selling food to other people at the moment are coming from an angle of, well, people should know better if they're eating lots of our foods that are unhealthy for them. That's up to them. But actually, really, it's about all of us, isn't it? How many people are educated about nutrition? Are we taught about that at school? How many people are educated about what glucose syrup does, how addictive it is? And again, if you start watching these programs and seeing what happens to people when they stop eating meat, for example, eating dairy products, how much their lives change and how they can come off medication. This is mind-blowing stuff. So there's huge myths out there that, if you're a vegetarian, you can't get enough protein. But all the protein comes from the plant product that animals eat. That is how they create protein. And so again, if you look at that simple analogy of going direct to source for whatever it is that you want to relate to or with or co-create, and be interdependent rather than codependent, then the middleman, the middle thing that's involved, to use a technical term there, that central thing that is making money out of this, that can go. And if we go more and more to source, then the energy frees up. We're not having to pay all these other energy vampires in some way, controllers, very old vampiric bloodline energy, for example, around colonialism, around the slave trade, then we're coming into a very different space as human beings. So, yeah, I think that's covered it. So Mercury in Gemini, Sun in Gemini, 29 degrees today, and the Mercury energy of retrograde ends on the 22nd. So then we'll be able to have more clarity about everything that we've gone over the old mindset with. If you've got Mercury retrograde, which I have, then it's not as much of a jar as it is for some people who don't. So, you know, we were born when Mercury was retrograde, and so that's a natural feeling for us around going over old mindset. So that's another key thing to look at in the chart, which planets are retrograde. So on Thursday, the 17th of June, we had red electric serpents, and the planets for red serpents are the asteroids. So red serpent energy, again, is the other side of yellow sea. So it was here. So again, 10 portals we had. That was the 29th of March until the 10th of April. So that was around Easter. And so again, historically, that's a huge time in the original calendars, so the pagan calendars, around new life being created. So again, you can look at the Christian framework as well, what was happening at that time. Very, very important time. Friday, the 18th of June, was a big day. And by that time, we had come to the 6th Mayan sign, which is White World Bridger. And the planet for White World Bridger is Mars. We've got Mars in Leo now. So that is bringing ego on the one hand, but it's like this strong masculine. So it can be for heart healing. It can be for doing what we love and really coming into that heart-centered awareness. Spirit lives here. And so changing our mind, firstly, our logical mind, mindsets. And how do we do that? We change our emotional mind, then we can truly change our behavior. So whilst people have huge emotional story and trauma going on either a conscious level or an unconscious level, this creates thoughts every day, creates mindsets. And so they seek often to avoid what that creates from those feelings. It's all about the feelings. That's what the thoughts create. And so the thoughts in themselves may not be true, but they're creating a feeling every day. And this is why it's so important to understand the emotional evolution, because until we change those feelings that are creating these thoughts, then we're running that old story. Once we start to really heal that, then we have different thoughts and we have different behaviors. Once we have tools to work with our addictions, emotional freedom technique, we understand all the little threads of what is important about those addictions. So is it about a connection to childhood that felt good that we don't have now? So we'll eat a cake or drink a drink, and that'll bring that back up for us, you know, the magic again. And how to create that differently now in a healthy way, so that we don't need any of those addictions anymore. It takes time, takes patience with ourselves, and it is totally possible to make different choices now. So on White Self-Existing World Bridger Day, we were going back to the 18th of February to the 2nd of March. And so again, if you focus on that time, what was happening for you back then? Now, on that day, I had an amazing day, and I had the card which was New Realm coming in, and I totally felt that. So this energy of the goddess coming in now, the more that we are coming into loving and accepting ourselves, the more that we can really embody those shifts. The more that we heal our feelings, we change our behaviors, and we start to do things in a different way, in a way many times that is very different from our ancestral pattern, our family pattern. And we are literally changing the world through changing ourselves. We're saying goodbye to that old world where we felt disempowered and we were experiencing imbalanced relationship, often narcissistic relationship and abuse. So this is fundamental to understanding what underpins our structure as a human being and a conscious creator. We have to heal the health stories, we have to heal the harm to create harmony. And that's essential to the Libra energy and the new age that's coming in. So yesterday we had blue overtone hand. Blue hand is the 7th Mayan sign. So in terms of the numerology, that's the mystic, that's the top of the pyramid. And in terms of blue hand, the planet is Earth. How are we mastering shaping our destiny? So again, what you were doing yesterday is really key. What was resonating for you around mastery of shaping your destiny? And so what triggered you yesterday? Remember, all of this work is the flip side. This is about focusing on the shadow, on the triggers, on the emotions. So this was the 10th of January to the 22nd of January. And so we reached today, and we're on yellow rhythmic star, being the star we really are. And today, Jupiter goes retrograde. So it's time to examine our beliefs and remember that we've inherited many of them from our ancestors and culture. Are they serving us? So Jupiter's been in Pisces. And so again, we can refer that back to yellow seed. We can also go forward to blue eagle. They're twin together because blue eagle, planetary server, is Jupiter. It's mastery of, in Pisces, I see that as our Christ consciousness code. So it's how we model Jesus and his path as it has been told to us. And of course, all of these stories about Jesus were written a long time after he died. And so they've also been edited in many ways by many different religious frameworks with agendas, most of which are not around people being self-empowered. I found a really good film to watch was Mary Magdalene, and with Joaquin Phoenix playing the role of Jesus. I thought that was an amazing film, because that gave a very clear perspective that she had a different understanding to the rest of the disciples and she wasn't really liked for it. So many people still believing that somebody's going to come and rescue them, that Jesus was going to come and change the world by becoming the new king, the new savior, the new Messiah, rather than understanding that the whole life of Jesus shows us a personal process of what we have to go through around all the lessons that he learned, that he embodied, and basically that the people crucified him because they weren't ready to embrace his teachings. And as we go out of the age of Pisces, we understand that each one of us is responsible for creating good, healthy boundaries. That's what Piscean energy is, by behaving in a way that's responsible, taking responsibility for our choices and letting go of blaming other people, stopping using our addictions, and stopping being in relationship where we have power imbalance. So of course, again, the focus is on the inner world and on ourselves. So the solstice comes in on red moon. And so that's tomorrow. And it is, as you can see, a portal day. So a really important day to see what is resonating for you around authenticity and being the beacon of light. That is really, really key tomorrow. So the planet for Red Moon is Mercury, our high self, our highest self, our God self, our divine spirit, Thoth, Hermes, however you see that energy. So I'm going to put this down from now. And move that on. So once we go into the solstice in the northern part of the world, we have the goddess incarnate coming in. And so in particular for women, this is really, really important time. Do you feel connected to the goddess? Do you feel you can even call yourself a goddess? Are you familiar with the word? Are you comfortable with the word of saying, I am a beautiful goddess energy? I remember before I came to Glastonbury and I was just visiting, I came to a goddess conference here and I was trying to encourage other people, other women from the north to come. And I could see that a lot of them were really resisting the terminology. They couldn't imagine themselves as part of that group. And so again, it's just seeing how these terms make us feel and how that resonates for us or how it doesn't resonate. The 28-day moon period of resonant moon was the 10th of January to the 6th of February. It was around the pagan festival of Imbolc, the fire in the belly. So again, if you tune into that time around what you were feeling, what was coming up for you, what were those seeds within you that are going to bear fruit this year. I'm just going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to go to, again, I'll share links for this. So moon in Libra at 29 degrees. At the moment here. Servants giving a woman a bath. Instinctively drawn to be where everything is happening in order to give and receive invaluable energies, feelings and messages. The outstanding destiny of one who contacts the source of greater cycles and movements. You have your finger on the pulse of epochal change. Not sure how to pronounce that. Offering freely what you have gathered along your journey and equally welcoming lavish gifts from others. The budding impulse is towards the new kind of community, towards sisterhood and brotherhood unlimited. Sparkling awareness of the cutting edge of the evolution and of being somebody on the spot. The convergence of worlds to open a space for the radical unknown to come through, to heal and transform and make a huge difference. Again, I just love the synchronicity because I know as I was reading that out, that's totally connected to what I've just been talking about women in the north and belly dancing as I was doing back then, and the people who I was connecting to back then. That is a direct link. So this is happening to me more and more now as I become more aware of cosmic codes and literally the language of consciousness. It's just totally amazing. So I'm going to also read you Mercury at 29 degrees, which is the sun degree in Gemini. A garden planted solely with shade plants offered the unique chance to take any given side of self and world to its absolute limit and beyond. scouting out ahead in whatever direction suits your fancy, saturated with all the props and accompanying attitudes and gestures of your chosen tangent, fabulously alive to your fantasy, your obsession, your specialized style and manifestation, extravagantly lavish in letting yourself go to decadent or breakthrough places. No conscience, no ethic, no restriction. Exploring to the hilt one side of things and hoping to wear it out if it's limiting or bring it back alive for everybody to get in touch with if it proves to be relevant and enduring and cosmically right on. So, another way to look at this energy is what thoughts do you have about yourself that are constantly manifesting in the world? So, if you're not feeling good about yourself, if you're not feeling worthy about yourself, how is that being shown to you? What experiences are you having on a day-to-day basis that you may be really fed up with? Thinking that I'm stuck on this labyrinth, I'm going around this merry-go-round again. What do I need to do to stop living this life? So remember, whenever you get triggered, whenever something's going on outside of you, remember you have no control over that. Your only control is over how you feel about it. So if you are having big triggers over the last 7 days, because huge things happening on planet Earth, then instead of focusing on how you feel angry about other people controlling you, other people not having the same opinion as you, other people not being strong enough to stand in their power, all of those things. Remember, this trigger leads you back to a story in your own life. So take your power back, work with this emotion, and really focus on what it reminds you of that happened earlier on in your life, because that is it for you. So remember, everything that's happening now is a gift on one level. It's giving you the opportunity to clear your health story. And trust me when I say this, the more that you do this over the next week, because it's going to be challenging, it's going to be bringing all your feelings up around what happened to you as a child in the home. I'll go back to the chart in a moment to show that. Even though you might know the astrology, even though you might have a belief about the future and how you're going to shape it, if you have got triggers and you've got huge anger coming up or sadness, then it's essential that you focus on healing that. Because if you haven't healed that, that's going to keep showing up for you until you do, until you change your focus onto yourself as being the conscious creator and on you being the one who is creating and birthing the new earth. The next 52-day cycle is on the 11th of July, and this is going to be really focusing on being authentic, what needs to shift for us because it's red moon, 52-day process. It's in cosmic moon, what needs to shift. Really, really magical. Remember, the universe is always in alignment with that. We have a new 260-day process starting on the 1st of September in Virgo. And Virgo is the reality check of where we actually are. So again, we're going into an earth energy out of the Sagittarius fire. So very important to be doing this work now. Every day, as much tapping as you can, as much clearing as you can around the old story. And if you don't know how to do that yet, check out emofree.com. There are free resources on there. Gary Craig, the original inventor of EFT, as a framework. And there are manuals on there that you can learn how to do this. There's loads of videos out there. If you want to work on this with me, please get in touch and I'll put a contact form underneath. Today we've got Lilith, sexuality, fundamental to repression of the sacred feminine. And again, if you haven't checked Lilith's story out, check her out, because she was the first wife of Adam and she is our contrary Mary. So wherever she is in your chart, she is fundamental. We've got Black Moon Lilith in Taurus now at later degrees. So again, all our fears are coming up. Fears are based on things that have happened to us in the past or our ancestors, and they just want to be felt, they want to be heard, they want to be acknowledged, rather than keep pushing them down. Start to really work with them, start to get EFT into your life, because the more that everybody's doing this, the more the world's going to change. Greater cycles, so I'm going to come back to that in a moment, because that's number 9. And also ties in with the Thoth card today, which is happiness. Both 9s. Number 9 in every wave spell is the gateway point. So you go through the first 8 days, you work with those archetypes. The structure is always the same. Because it's a wave spell, you have slightly different energy there. You have a different place to look at in your chart. And the tapping stays the same. So all this information just gives you more information to bring the unconscious conscious and a deeper understanding. The tapping is the difference that makes the difference though. Okay, so the more that we are not attached to things, the more that we're in peace, the more that we've accepted and healed our past story. Doesn't mean we're excusing the behaviour, we're just letting it go. The more we can feel joy in every moment. And that's the truth. No matter what's going on out there, it's about what's going on in here. That's the key focus. That's the only thing we can change. Okay, so greater cycles, number 9, is numerologically taking us to the next level. And I talked about this, I think, in the last video about octave. So on a vibrational level, on a musical level, our body as a holder of light, if you try and push yourself, so let's say, for example, you do too much Kundalini yoga at an early age, your body can't hold that. It's not structured to hold that in terms of the light body. So you will cause damage to yourself. And it's trusting that there is a process that happens naturally in alignment with the planets. And the more that you work on yourself on an inner level and you transform your shadow story, you transform your emotions, then you will be able to hold more light. And if you're doing this every day, then this structure, the human being structure, becomes a chalice that can hold more light, because on every level you are healing, you are changing your behavior through changing your thoughts as well, and you're doing different things to be healthy. That's the most important thing right now, coming into health, stopping doing toxic relationship on every level. What you put into yourself, your body is your temple, that's the truth. This chalice here is carrying your spirit, and if you don't look after it, then your spirit can't be in it anymore. The more you look after it, the more you heal, the more that you can hold more light, and the more your life's purpose will become embodied, your soul's purpose will become clearer, and you will start to follow a very different path, because you've done the first bit of the process, which is becoming an expert on the ancestral story, healing it, doing something different that is aligned with this time and the consciousness. So I'm just going to read you, again, I'll put a link on, and So again, a huge amount of information here. On a simplistic basis, what has made you happy, that's good for you, that's healthy for you? Simple things like being in nature, who do you like being around, what fills you full of joy? So, it could be plants, like for me, I love being out in my garden, and that's always been a place of sanctuary for me when I've been going through troubled times. Growing veg, growing seeds, growing plants, planting them, learning about how to make great things to eat, new ways to eat, juicing. Yeah, I get really excited about that. Love astrology, love being around certain people, and noticing that I don't like being around other people, so I don't be around them anymore. Whereas in the past, I would have thought that I had to be around them, and trying to fit in with tribes that, well, I'm an alien, I don't fit in with that tribe, because again, a lot of my energy is about change as a number 9, as a blue hand. And so really trusting that now, and trusting that I'm coming into more and more connection with my tribe, around in particular women who want to heal that old story and stop doing things that make them feel sad, make them feel angry, following old patriarchal frameworks and codes and rules that just repress our spirit. I love being around my cat and how she just opens my heart. And I think that's so true for so many people with animals, that unconditional love and that acceptance of us that is so innocent and pure a lot of the time. So that's the key, and not around pushing yourself, exhausting yourself, um, coming into something that gives you a high out of hurting yourself, for example. No pain, no gain. Really? Um, we come up with all of these things to push ourselves in a very unhealthy way. So number 9 is the number of completion. So it's taking us to a whole new level if we're doing this healing. In the next 9 weeks or 9 months, so again, remember, get your eye on the 1st of September. I'm going to be starting a very powerful program at that time. So if you're interested in that, do get in touch. It's being formatted now, so I'll be releasing it as I create it. And so everything's coming together, building on what I've been doing so far. So that 9 months is going to be a key focus for me around what creates happiness for me, and the threads for everybody, that I'm working with, because everybody that I work with is another me in Lakesh. It says this is unabashed happiness where complete and perfect realization of pleasure and happiness is being experienced. It also suggests high-mindedness, not easily satisfied with small and limited ideas. So not gossipy. A lot of people are getting distracted by these stories, which is how and why they're designed to focus on who's to blame, and instead of learning the lesson of all of this that's underneath. So overflowing, as you can see from the picture, filling of one another, 3 into 3 into 3. Buddha or Christ consciousness. So again, when we've got resistance to what is, we are at odds with it. There may be very good logical reasons for that, of course, but the more that we can go with the flow and trust the divine that this is happening, and put that focus back on ourselves. Remember, the ego doesn't like it. And this is something that we have to get used to. 9 is also the number of the moon that rules water. And again, why it's so important at this time, and to tie in with the moon calendar as well, is because this is our emotional body. This is the part of us that gets influenced by the different cycles of the moon and all of our emotions. So, example, in terms of psychology, where people have bipolar issues, my understanding of that is that they've got huge emotional stories that they haven't healed and that they're still around similar archetypes of people who are repeating those stories for them. They're still in abusive relationship, they're still feeling disempowered, they are experiencing abusive relationship on some level. And so that's really important to heal, because otherwise, how on earth can that person recover? So the astrological symbol of this card is Jupiter in Pisces, surprise, surprise. And so, yeah, beautiful energy, Jupiter in Pisces as well. Mercy on one level. And again, if you check out, if you're not aware of it, Merchant of Venice and all the symbology in that story, they're just amazing stories, the Shakespeare plays. It's all there in that story around what that merchant wants. He doesn't really want money, he just wants the death of the merchant because of his jealousy of his life. So number 9 is sacred and attains the summit of perfection. So on a very simple level again, if we keep doing things that make us unhappy, isn't that madness? Whilst there might be a much deeper underpinning behind that, so we might think that we have to do that, you know, to keep a roof over our head. We might think that we have to be in certain relationships because at the moment we can't perceive anything beyond that. You know, it's unknown. It really is that simple though. If we carry on doing things that make us unhappy, then that is so destructive on every level to us. Now is the time to have the courage, Mars in Leo, being the warrior of the heart, to go beyond that energy. So just to come back to the next codes, so we have got the summer solstice, number 7. Number 8 is white galactic dog, which again, the planet is Mercury. And so that's when Mercury goes direct. So we can see how we've been going over old ground. This was a previous wave spell, remember, white dog. Are we still doing our ancestral stories, or are we connecting to Sirius star, which is fundamental at this time? So in Egypt, around the summer solstice, this is when the Nile will flood and bring all that energy from other places, all those nutrients. Might be challenging initially to watch things flood, but it's essential to make sure that new life can come in and that people can keep growing things and keep that plain fertile. Because otherwise, if we keep planting things over and over in the same ground with no additional nutrients, then they're not going to grow. And of course, again, going back to the yellow seed on the planet, we can see where the agriculture systems that we have been using with huge pesticides, huge fertilizers, have unzipped the earth and exposed the earth and made deserts in some places. So again, lots of good documentaries out there on that as well. I think on Netflix. I don't know if they're still on there. I can't think of the name of them. But I've watched several over the past few months. And so again, how we garden is key as well. Zipping things up with plants. That's a really good thing to do, because then that keeps all the moisture in, and our whole ecosystem in the garden becomes really profoundly different. And it does have to go through stages, and it's not a quick fix Chelsea garden. It's something that does take time to establish. All of these things take time and observation, and that's why we're here. So then we are going into the gateway, which is on the 23rd, and that's Blue Monkey. And so the gateway of the divine child, this is really key, all our old childhood stories, Venus, maturation, and we've also got Venus in Cancer, and so we're seeing what needs to mature about our childhood home life. How are we changing that experience now? Then we come to Yellow Human, which is number 12 Mayan sign, planet Earth. And if we go along, you can see that we have, a bit further, a portal there, and that is number 10. So what have we manifest as a human being at this time? Really have a look what you've created in your life. And if you're brave enough, what have you created that you don't like? What you're still manifesting on that level? Are you ready to let go of that old story and start to create something new? And then going to Red Skywalker, which is Spectral. So again, that ties in Red Skywalker, planet is Mars, and how we are letting go of the hell stories. So we're being the Buddha human being who is realizing it's us that makes a difference. It's us that I have to create a new story for myself, and by doing that, I will change the world. And coming up then is we have the full moon. Okay, so I just realised I've skipped past the full moon in Capricorn, which is on Thursday, yellow planetary human. So it's a portal day. So hugely important, full moon in Capricorn at 3 degrees. And especially because just before that, we have the moon crossing the galactic center. So whenever we've got the moon in Sagittarius and it gets to 26 degrees, that's the galactic center. So I'm going to check the time on that. So the full moon in Capricorn at 3 degrees is at 19:39 UK time. And so if we go back in time, so we're going to 8:15 a.m. on the 24th, on Thursday the 24th. That is when we've got Sagittarius at 26 degrees. So that's the time to really focus on what's coming up for your old story. So whenever we go into the galactic center, we've got an opportunity to rewire the old story. And you know what that is. You know what's still coming up for you around stories, around disempowerment, around manifestation of old unconscious choices, for example. We've also got Black Moon Lilith there at 26 degrees in Taurus. We've got Pluto in Capricorn at 26 degrees. And so we've got Saturn sextile in Chiron. And so again, all of this is Saturn, the structure of Chiron, the wound around who am I, what am I, who do I believe that I am? That's the most important thing. Who do you believe that you are? What's the universe showing you that is an old belief that you want to leave behind now? And so in terms of Saturn, Saturn has been at 13 degrees, so that's like the goddess energy, it's like the cosmic moon number, for 51 days. And it goes back into 12 degrees this week. So again, in terms of the Mayan, that's day number 12, that's the crystal complexity. And so we're seeing, again, what structure do we want to change? Black Moon Lilith is at 27 degrees of Taurus, and this is on Saturday, which is White Crystal Wizard Day. So again, all of this on the crystal day, this is just mind-blowing, isn't it? It just shows you. White Crystal Wizard being the structure of empowerment. So in terms of rewiring, this is healing all our disempowerment stories. And the more you tap on these, the more that you will change them. Again, White Wizard is the moon goddess. It's the 13-year cycle that we're in. And the planet is the asteroid belt, bringing new conscious awareness in. So if you add 27 degrees together, you get the number 9 again. 2 and 7 is 9. And so if you are really focusing on, I can't change because of what's going on in the world, I can't birth my dream because how can I when all of this is going on? I'm going to be limited in some way. I'm going to be overpowered in some way. I'm going to be stopped in some way. And remember, this always is traced back to, where did you form that belief? And you formed that belief because all your ancestors before had that in some strand of the DNA. And if you start to really become aware of whose story you're working with, which many of the people I'm working with now are, things start to become much, much clearer. And you can tie these things back to past events. You can connect to spirit, you can get downloads more, you can get understanding, you get guidance more, because you're ready to do the next level of the journey. You're ready to do what it takes to be disciplined. That's what the full moon in Capricorn is about. And this goes back to a lunar eclipse, and I think it was in 2017. So I've watched something on that, but I don't want to make this video go longer and longer and longer. So it's I've been mapping moon codes, and you can see how they show up later on. So with these eclipses that are happening now, they will also fit into future patterns. So just bring it back to yourself though. If you know where the full moon in Capricorn is aspecting your chart, if for example you've got planets at 3 degrees, that's key as well. And just tune into your fears that are coming up and start to tap on them. Even though I have a fear that I can't bring this in now because the world's going mad, for example, I truly and deeply love and accept myself. These are all the fears that are coming up so that we can heal them. Venus also goes into 29 degrees of Cancer on Saturday on White Crystal Wizard. So just to go back to the code. So there she is. And then finally, we have the eagle. And so we go into the following Sunday, we go into, so a week to today, we go into blue cosmic eagle. And again, the planet is Jupiter. So with Jupiter going retrograde, we are literally going to go back over these energies. Jupiter goes into Aquarius on July the 28th. And so again, that'll be bringing in a different framework. And so really it's about getting very clear about our patterns as a conscious dreamer, seeing where we've got to be really disciplined now. You know, if that behavior, that relationship, that job, that way of eating is creating pain for us emotionally or physically. Remember, if emotional pain isn't healed, it will go on to manifest as physical pain in the body, because that's just how it works. Then we have to make a realignment. So this week is going to be a bit of one of those, around taking us into places, showing us where we are not in alignment, most importantly, so that we can know that information and start to make a course correction. And that means by the time we start going into that Leo energy, so again, we've got Mars in Leo showing us where our heart wants us to go. Once we come into the 23rd of July, we go into Leo energy. And on the 26th of July, we start a new Mayan year. So we're right back to magnetic moon again. So now is a great time to just really focus on your feelings, how you're feeling, what creates those feelings, and get really specific. The devil is in the detail at these 29 degrees, so that you start to know yourself and you start to really appreciate what gifts you have from the goddess and how you're here to manifest her through you. And how you do that is by healing and letting go of all that doesn't feel loving and nurturing for you and doesn't bless your goddess space. This full moon that's coming up is the strawberry moon. And so historically, this would be when the strawberries were ripe, ready to harvest. Mine aren't quite there yet, haven't quite had enough sun. And I love this time of year, and I love eating the strawberries and new potatoes and all that lovely energy that that brings. It's possible for each one of us to live in a Garden of Eden, and that Garden of Eden begins here. So sending you lots of love, many blessings now. You have all the answers. You know what your story is. Learn the frameworks of healing. Start to clear the old story. Become a conscious dreamer. Have faith in yourself. And if you don't have faith in yourself yet, notice why you don't have faith in yourself. Where has that come from? How did you learn that? And how do you heal it and let it go? So lots of love. If you'd like to know more, I have lots of workshops, processes, magical things to share with you. Just get in touch and we can have a chat and see how we can co-create and, most importantly, manifest magical lives for ourselves right now. See you soon.